Hey there, good evening. Always nice to see you. It's time for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors, journalists, all different people who write about the Bronx. And we're going to do that in a moment. And in our second segment, we've got a social media expert who specializes in putting beautiful photographs out about our borough, the Bronx. We'll do that in the second segment. In our first segment, we say good evening to Samantha Maldonado, who is a senior reporter for The City, where she covers climate resiliency, housing, and development. Samantha, nice to have you with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So you and I attended the same press conference in Van Cortlandt Park. You wrote a story that said that the Bronx and Manhattan get $27 million in state water grants after the city exposed Bond Act funding droughts. Let's talk about this project to unearth a buried stream in Van Cortlandt Park. And also they're going to manage stormwater and flooding in Central Park, et cetera, et cetera. Let's talk about this project, the daylighting of Tibbets Brook. Tell us a little bit about what you know and what happened at that press conference that we both attended.
Sure. So the press conference is to announce some new funding for water infrastructure and projects that mitigate flooding around the boroughs. It was in part funded by Environmental Bond Acts, which is funding that comes from the state bonding to be able to fund these types of projects. And so the biggest project of the three that New York City was funded for is, as you mentioned, daylighting Tibbets Brook. And Tibbets Brook, as you well know, is a buried stream in Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx. It does flow all the way from Yonkers, but for over 100 years, it's been buried. And there's a project now that's been many years in the works to unearth it and bring it to light. And this would, the thinking goes, provide a way for water when it rains a lot to flow into the stream instead of hitting the city's sewer system.
Let me just add, and then we had the flooding during, I forget which hurricane it was, but it really washed out the Major Deegan Expressway in the Bronx. And so there would be, the theory is there would be a stream running next to it, so the water would have a place to go.
Exactly.
Right. And you were going to go on, but I interrupted you, so keep going.
Oh, sure. Well, besides flood prevention, which you rightly pointed out, the point of the water going into the stream instead of hitting the city's sewer system is that it would also help prevent pollution from the waters and the rivers around the Bronx. What happens now is that our city's sewer system handles both rainwater and wastewater. So anytime you flush a toilet or take a shower, anything that goes towards there. But when it rains, the system cannot handle both amounts of water. And so what happens is instead of getting to the treatment plant, it overflows into our water bodies. And so that means that, the dirty water from the shower or your dishwasher or anything else goes straight into the rivers and lakes, and that affects the ecology. And so if the new daylit Tibbets Brook can take on some of that water, it will allow for more of that dirty water to be treated before it hits the water bodies.
Listen, I'm just a human being hearing what you're saying. That's disgusting. That the wastewater is somehow infiltrating our regular water systems. It really is. Now, for anybody who's ever been to Van Cortlandt Park, and you'll see what is now called the Mill Pond, it used to be called Van Cortlandt Lake. There's a spot there where it all kind of terminates, and then that water goes to the underwater stream. It smells terrible over there because it is this kind of conglomeration of I don't know what technically it's called. I call it a conglomeration of fresh water and sewage water, and it's not moving. So what is the ultimate plan, and what is the money that they announced going for, and then what ultimately are we going to get when they finally dig it out, so to speak?
Yeah, well, the money is only part of it. It's a $133 million plan, and we got I forget exactly the amount, but it's a portion of that $27 million that we mentioned at the top. And so what's going to happen here is once that the stream is unearthed, there will be more parkland and more open space added to Van Cortlandt Park. In part, there will be a trail that goes up all the way upstate from the city that's connected now.
Right. Well, they have the Putnam Trail, but this is going to add additional parkland, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're in Van Cortlandt Park, and truth be told, I'm a member of the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, so I'm there a lot. And you look south from where the mill pond is and look south, you could see like a marsh. Imagine that is going to be opened up, and that would ultimately be like an actual stream, a river, whatever you want to call it, the brook of Tibbets Brook. What do you see as the next steps? I mean, obviously, fundraising has to happen. There has to be allocations of more money. But what happens next? Is there more planning involved here? Or do they have the plans? I mean, how do you see this whole thing?
Well, time will tell. I think the city, it's both the Parks Department and the Department of Environmental Protection are basically ready to get going with this. I'm not sure about the timeline exactly,
Right.
but they've been doing community engagement and plans to construct this thing for many years at this point. And it's really all part of an initiative to kind of lean on nature and what we call green infrastructure to be able to handle more rainwater.
Your vision is a lot broader than, frankly, mine, which is always focused on the Bronx projects. And you mentioned that of the 3 projects that are out there, this may be the most significant. Is this one of kind of the most aggressive water saving environmental projects the city has undertaken? Like, where does this fall in the spectrum of city water projects and city environmental projects, et cetera, et cetera? Purely environmental projects.
Yeah, well, it's certainly ambitious. There's a lot of layers to the project.
That was the word I
Again,
couldn't think of. I used the word aggressive, but yes, it's a very
ambitious is
project.
right. Yeah. And so it will have a lot of natural benefits with more green space and recreational areas, but also it will again mitigate flooding, prevent pollution. So all of these things that this one project does also sort of meets the ambition with the scope of impact. I mean, if you think about it, Canal Street is over a canal, again, out of the Bronx into Manhattan, and unearthing that would be an incredible feat.
But
That'll ever
you know
happen.
what? You
I
know
don't know
what?
that we want to.
I that never occurred to. Of course, I've been down to Canal Street a million times. It never occurred to me. So there is a canal or something that runs under Canal Street.
There once was. And so
Wow. And
if you
do we know it's still happening? I mean,
this
deep
is beyond the
underground.
scope.
Oh,
I
okay.
was using this as a metaphor about to
No, but
sort of
that's
compare
fair.
it.
And of course, Canal Street, it would be pretty difficult to unearth that that entire thing, but that would be comparable. So then, what actually was in terms of managing the Central Park stormwater? What is that about, which you have written about, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure, that's a different project.
I
Again, it's
realize
in
that, yeah.
North Manhattan, and what's going to happen there is they're going to use some of the sort of ponds there in order to catch stormwater. And again, it's going to work similarly to how the unearthed Tibbets Brook will work.
Is this part of a larger vision that, for want of a better words, the city is finally getting an idea about? I mean, I know the folks working on the Tibbets Brook daylighting project have been doing it for 20 years. So it's not like somebody just came up with this idea and let's do it. Do you get the feeling, because you cover this stuff, you get the feeling that there's more open-mindedness to creating these kinds of innovations, so to speak, than ever before in the city of New York?
Oh, absolutely. Especially just with Hurricane Ida in 2021, and we saw deluge of stormwater could do. I mean, it led to lives and property being ruined. And so there's definitely a push and a necessity to get these projects done.
One of the things you reported is that just 2% of state environmental grants went to New York City. Now, listen, we're not everything in the state of New York. I get that. We always want everything to come our way. But 2%, when you come out with grants going to this immense urban center, seems to me to be like, hey, what's that about? Maybe that's my own suspicion. What's your thought on that?
Well, you
I
wouldn't
mean,
be able.
are we getting the short end of the stick? Is I guess what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would say that. A lot of our elected officials and even some of the officials appointed within city government, they say that this Bond Act funding, in a large part, happened because New Yorkers voted for it in large
That's
numbers,
right.
and we also are, over 40% of the state population. So, what is a fair share? That's up for debate, but certainly, I think people would say it's more than 2%.
Yeah, well, you say what is fair share, and you talk to people of the Bronx. We definitely know we haven't gotten what we probably should have over all this time. We just got a couple of minutes left. Talk to me a little bit about what's coming. Like, what are you working on next? What do you think the biggest advancements in environmental development will be as a result of this Bond Act or anything else? Like, what's the vision out there in City Hall and even in the state?
Yeah, well, the Department of Environmental Protection,
Protection, yeah.
the city DEP, recently they came out with a report, and it says this is what is needed to make the city resilient to rain and flooding. And essentially, it's a 30-year plan, $30 billion of work, and it's all kinds of nature-based solutions, construction-based solutions, some both. And so I will be watching for sort of the wherewithal around that plan. What projects really move forward? Will we get the funding? Where are those projects going in the first place?
So my sense is that there's a greater awareness and greater acceptance of the need than ever before. Listen, everyone in New York State is not progressive thinking, but I think this is an example of a more progressive thinking. Just out of curiosity, so when you were up in Van Cortlandt Park, did you get a sense of how beautiful our park is? And I'm totally
That was great.
prejudiced, and
We're
had
starting
you
to see
been
the
up?
foliage.
Yeah, of course, this is a great time to be in the park. So I'm just curious, had you been up to the park before? You could
I
tell us.
had,
Yeah,
I did,
okay,
and
fair
I had
enough.
gotten very lost.
Great. Listen, Samantha, we're going to look forward to the other things that you write about, not only about the daylighting of Tibbets Brook, but other things as well. So we do appreciate you joining us. That is Samantha Maldonado, senior reporter for The City, where you cover the climate, resiliency, housing, and development, and also the daylighting of Tibbets Brook, which everybody in the Bronx is applauding. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Great. We will take a short break, folks, and then we're going to get into Bronx social media and an artist who represents the Bronx with some incredible photographs. So we'll do that in just a moment. Don't go away.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I just said I love having nice people on my show. I love having my friends on my show. And so, but my buddy Rina Santos is with us. Rina is, let's see, I've got technically, she's a Puerto Rico born documentary photographer and teaching artist living and working in the Bronx. And she's here with us in the Bronx Buzz. Always good to see you.
It's always such an incredible pleasure to be on this show. Thank you so much.
Incredible pleasure. Wow. Anyway, Rina is a photographer, talented in so many different ways. We know her father, Ray Santos, was one of the great salsa and jazz artists in our history of our borough. So we always remember her for that. But this is the 10th anniversary of something called Everyday Bronx. Who is Everyday Bronx?
Thank you so much for asking. Everyday Bronx is an Instagram account, and we started 10 years ago. So it's a 10th anniversary, Everyday Bronx 10th anniversary. And we're so proud to be here. And it started from a larger project called the Everyday Projects. And it's an international initiative where you highlight different geographical areas in the world to really fight negative stereotypes of that area. And it started with Everyday Africa. And so at the time, Everyday Bronx was the smallest geographical account. And I am so proud to say that we have grown to 49,500 followers. One of the reasons that we wanted to come on the show is that we want to really encourage Bronxites and, everyone who sees the show to give us a follow. Our goal for our anniversary is to hit 50K followers on Instagram.
So now a couple of things here. So you do it and you load it up with pictures that in theory, as you just described, are there to show who we really are, represent us, underserved, undernoticed communities. I mean, we know what's out there. And so that's what you do. And you use the word we. So let's credit if there's somebody else to put our arms around and hug.
That's absolutely right. I used to do this account by myself until I was able to get some team members, but I could not do this at all without our fellow Everyday Bronx team members, which are Edgar Santana, Heriberto Sanchez, and Kayla Beltran. And the way that we do it is each person has 1 or 2 days a week. It is Everyday Bronx. We post every single day, and we post 2 images a day. Also stories. We try to publicize community events, things that are happening in the Bronx, and also document. But our mission that, we're incredibly proud of is really portraying an accurate and holistic story of the life in the Bronx, while also trying to dispel stereotypes of our beautiful borough. And the beautiful thing about Everyday Bronx is that unlike other everyday accounts, we specifically use images from our followers. So basically, this account is being built by Bronxites telling their own story.
I was going to ask you, 49,000 is quite a good number. Do you have a sense, or is there any way to know what percentage of those are Bronx people? Because spreading who we are across the world is fine and should be done because we know what they all think we are, which of course is totally crazy. So I get that, and then other people would say, "Oh wow, that's really the Bronx." But I'm hoping that many of them are Bronxites.
Well, our audience predominantly are Bronxites, but we are also really proud to be serving the Puerto Rican and Bronx diaspora. I love the kind of conversations that people are able to have on the comment section of images, talking about, oh, I grew up in the Bronx. This is the Bronx that I know and love, and being able to talk to each other. So we like to, represent not Bronxites, but also we do have a pretty large international following.
This is really interesting to me. We've been doing the Bronx Buzz for many years. I mean, I don't know what, 6, 7 years or whatever we've been doing. And of course, Bronx Talk has been on for 30 years. This is the first time that anybody has said, hey, let's celebrate the anniversary of a social media platform, which is kind of a unique thing, but a lot more modern than our old-fashioned TV and everything else that we do. So I'm really thrilled. Do you go out and take pictures every day and consciously try to do that, or is it just kind of like everybody else? I go for a walk, I'll take some pictures of the Bronx.
Well, when I first started the feed, I would go out specifically, especially to different events that I thought would be really important to add to the tapestry that we were trying to tell. Everyday Bronx, I'll be the first one to say it. It does not say the entire story of the Bronx because the Bronx is so incredibly unique. But what's lovely about having other people put images, or they can hashtag Everyday Bronx or at us, which would be really, really great. The algorithm of Instagram is different now, for us to be able to look at your photos, is that it can tell a more holistic story. So I used to go out and shoot specifically for Everyday Bronx. I still do so when there's a really wonderful event or something that I think would be great for the feed for people to really get a lot more publicity. Last year I shot the Bronx Halloween Parade, which was held last Saturday, and being able to put the images on the feed, a lot of people were able to really find out about that amazing parade that's been going on for
For
almost
years.
30
Listen,
years.
I want to show some stuff
Yeah, please.
that our producer Anderson Peguero we let him choose because there are
Excellent.
hundreds, thousands of pictures up there after
There
10
are
years.
almost 8,000 photos
8,000
posted.
photos. All right, so let's see, Anderson. Let's play the magic. This oh my goodness, I just love. There's my buddy Richard Izquierdo, the late great Richard Izquierdo. Boy, talking about the borough of the Bronx. There it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what we like to do, we've also done special projects in the Bronx, Bronx family history, to really create a larger archive of vintage photos of the Bronx. Also, we've done parties in the park. We have done Bronx Vote. We have done casitas in the Bronx. So we've done
It's
different
all there,
projects.
but that's a mural. Where is I haven't seen that
So
mural. Where is
that's
it?
an excellent. I'm very proud. I love that mural. I knew Dr. Richard Izquierdo.
So I certainly did as well. Yeah.
He was my doctor as a
Oh,
kid.
he
He
was.
actually was
Wow.
my dad's best friend growing up. So
Wow.
they were both musicians
He and
together.
Ray. Wow. Well, yeah, and I'm proud to say I did one of his last interviews.
Oh,
We
that's
did an
magnificent.
interview
It's
together. He
he's
was
such
he
a
was hanging
pillar.
in there.
He's hanging in there, and the
He
thing
was
is
hanging
that
in.
that he's so strong that when you walk into any urban health plan facility, you really feel him and his presence. And the beautiful thing about that mural, it is on Southern Boulevard and Westchester Avenue, is that it features three very famous Bronxites, and one of those Bronxites, besides Richard, is my father, Ray
Your dad,
Santos. And
Ray
so
Santos.
that was magnificent for both of them to be in a mural
Let's
together.
go. I want to show more stuff. What do we got? Okay, so this is a photo by A. Traves Daliente.
Yes, and this is one of our Bronx teams, is Heriberto Sanchez, and so basically, we do documentary style photos. So a lot of street photography is being featured here. We have a beautiful, beautiful example of playing with light
Yes,
and
it's a
composition.
beautiful photograph. Let's keep going. I don't want to run out of time, but
Yeah,
I want to get a bunch of
let's
them in
look.
there. This
You know,
goodness gracious, amazing.
documenting, we had that large eclipse, a moon, so being able to use the content that other Bronxites create. So we have
Here you go.
beautiful moons here in the Bronx too.
Keep it going.
This is from the Botanical Gardens, so we try to also feature images of famous places in the Bronx to encourage Bronxites to go to these places, and also to see,
Right.
for people to see the beauty
And
that in the
everything
Bronx.
is hashtagged and all that and linked up. It's beautifully done for a lot of us amateurs like me and try to create an Instagram page. I would have nothing in compared to this. Let's keep going. I don't know how many.
I really learned how to use social media through doing this. And so
I'm sure you did. Look at this.
this is the Dominican Day Parade. And again, this happens in the Bronx every year. And it's important for us to really highlight these beautiful cultural events and to also try to represent as many, different backgrounds that, of people that really that live and work here in the Bronx.
What I like is that if you look at these as a whole and step back, you really get a feel
Mm,
for who we are. All right, let's go.
let's go. Let's go for
Let's see
another
more.
one. And of course, this is an image of the subway. We love to also document the reality of how people commute and how people get around in the Bronx in the
Oh,
subway.
wait, is that an old train or is that
I
like
think that's one of the service
a
trains.
service train?
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
that's what it looks like.
And so
Wow.
and so
And
we have
also
a
in black and white gives it a little depth, a little
absolutely.
perspective.
And what's beautiful from 10 years ago to today is that I think I am this very, very proud of me and my team really being able to encourage people to express themselves with their camera. And you can see that the images, there's more content. When I first started with Everyday Bronx, when you looked up the hashtag Bronx, it was just,
Uh,
the most disgusting
We
connection.
got two more to show.
Let's
I
see.
want to show them.
Let's
Let's
look.
see what they are. Wow.
This is a photo by me. This is at Orchard Beach. This was for 4th of July fireworks, and so it was an incredible scene. That was actually my first time at the fireworks, and
Oh, there you go.
I specifically want to photograph for Everyday Bronx. I put up some videos. It was just an
All right, let's
incredible
do
event.
let's do one more, and then we're going to tell people how to participate. Look at this.
And
Oh my
another image of Orchard Beach. And
Orchard
again,
Beach.
most people don't even understand that we have a beach, that we have a city island, that we have, the most parks, Van Cortlandt, Pelham, and just such beautiful places for Bronxites to go.
Wonderful. So, Raina, how do people um, participate? How do they get you
Absolutely.
photos? What do they got to do?
Excellent. First, please use your phone and express yourself. And what you need to do is for us to look at the images and consider for reposting is post an image on your Instagram and you hashtag Everyday Bronx and add us. If you add us, we'll make sure that we see it. And then that's the content that we use to
And
fill our feed.
right, Everyday Bronx, and also follow Everyday Bronx.
Follow Everyday.
Listen, I just love it because we so badly need to continue to push our identity, who we really are, and what better way to do it with 49,000 people on Instagram. Raina, you're going to continue being my buddy because you just have vision about who we are. Thank you so much for joining us on the Bronx Buzz.
It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Great. Folks, that will do it. We thank Samantha from the city for joining us in our first segment. And of course, Raina and her buddies for doing Everyday Bronx, every day in the Bronx. So if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll be back next week. That's how it goes.